Hey guys, my name is Kathy Kellogg and I'm the Intake and Marketing Specialist at Support Inc. I wanted to thank you all for joining us today. We're going to be going over some testimonials on this webinar, and we also have a panel of experts joining us today, which is much appreciated. We have Cheryl Railsback, who's a family caregiver that joined us last year with her 2 kiddos. We have Jean Rice, who is also a family caregiver, joining us from Colorado Springs. And we have Pat Tracy, who is our awesome host home provider up in Fort Collins. And then I believe Jake is going to join us via phone as well. So let me go ahead and share my screen with the PowerPoint. Can you guys see this okay?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So this is going to be a PowerPoint that just goes over some feedback that we've received from families and providers through the years. And we also welcome constructive feedback if anybody has anything they'd like to share with us. Otherwise, I'll go ahead and kick this over to Brian to get started.
Thank you, Kathy. I am Brian, Associate Director of Marketing here at Support Inc. And like Kathy said, really, we do these webinars quarterly. Really good opportunity for internal, external people to learn about our services, different things going on. So this quarter, we're focusing on testimonials. Really just a good opportunity to learn about our services and supports, hear from our current stakeholders. As Kathy mentioned, we'll have 2 family caregivers, 1 host home provider, and then an apartment individual named Jake, who started out in a host home in our services and then moved to an apartment. I'll be calling him in. He went to the zoo today, which can't blame him. Sounds like a ton of fun. So I'll be giving him a call and he'll speak the kind of his services with Support Inc. Yeah, like Kathy said, I think good, bad, we're always trying to improve on the things we're doing well, keep doing those things. And then if we're not doing something well, kind of improve on that too. So yeah, just a good opportunity to hear from our current stakeholders about our services. And with that, I'll kick it off to our first expert.
Hello, I'm Cheryl Railsback, and I have 2 kids, 2 adult children who are under the DD waiver, and I'm their family caregiver. They're 18 and 19 now. So it's just been pretty recent, about a year, just over a year that we've been with the DD waiver. My husband and I actually have 5 kids, so these 2 are our youngest and they're adopted. We've done lots of medical care with them over the years. So I had experience with the CHCBS waiver they were both on, and then they were both on the CES waiver. And we were with a large agency. I was first their IHHS supporter and then their CNA for years and years. So I had lots of experience with agencies and those waivers, and knew several things that I definitely wanted to look for in an agency for the DD waiver. So a couple of years ago, I just decided, I better start researching, and started making phone calls and talking to people in the special needs community, and heard Support Inc.'s name come up several times. So that made my list of places to call. So I really spent about a year vetting agencies specifically for the DD waiver, because I knew that the large agency I was with under the CES waiver, I didn't like their model for how they did the DD waiver with only the employee model available, and taking a very large cut of our children's funding through that. So I knew that I wanted to look around. So I got in touch with Support Inc. and through a couple months of really researching, I was able to determine that other agencies were not going to be good fits for various reasons, and that Support Inc. would be the best fit for us. We have 2 kids that are CIS level 6, and both have many complicated issues. Pretty much every day I'm dealing with something very difficult, including today. So that's just the way life has always been and always will be. So it's really good for me to have a strong agency behind me. And I've appreciated that many times. I also ran a company about 10 years ago, and I was also a caseworker for an adoption program. So I have some experience in casework, and I have experience running a company, and I knew that legally, liability wise, I really wanted to make sure that I was with a solid company that has, you know, their own HR and their own accounting and their own legal services, so that I felt safe. And, you know, it's a company that would support me having insurance for myself as an independent contractor. I definitely wanted that. So I've been thrilled with Support Inc. and it basically checked every box that I knew was really important to me. I'll go through just a few other things here that are on the PowerPoint, and then I'm happy to answer any questions. I do have to get off by 11:40 to pick up both of my children. Have something this morning for a little bit, but I felt like the intake process with 2 kids was as easy as it could possibly be. Having 2 children, as maybe you can imagine, if you have one and your life is completely consumed by their care, imagine what that would be like times 2. It's taxed every resource, internal and external, that I've had for you know, the last 15 years after we adopted them. So you can imagine that intake, and really just the 18-year-old transition with the waiver and guardianship and SSI, it was very overwhelming. I started 2 years before just learning about everything, and that helped, but it's still, nothing was easy. There were bumps in every single thing we did, mostly because of struggles with developmental pathways and caseworkers changing, and I'm sure you can all identify with that. And then just the learning curve of all of those different applications. So Support Inc., the intake team there with Kathy and Cindy, made that so much easier than I think it could have been. And they helped facilitate some problems that came up with developmental pathways, losing paperwork, and changing caseworkers and having people take over our case that weren't familiar with the DD waiver was very difficult. So Support Inc.'s knowledge was really helpful in that whole intake process. And then just having them be willing to start the independent contractor model that a lot of larger agencies had been hesitant for a while to do, and some are still not choosing to go that route, even though it's a very viable legal route to go. It allows family caregivers, I feel like, to have better options if they're not someone that needs insurance and doesn't want to be an employee. To be able to be an independent contractor has been a really you know, just a great fit for our family. But to be with that larger agency that does have all those legal protections and just policies in place that I feel much more comfortable with, someone that I can reach out to. I've already emailed a couple people at Support Inc. this morning about a current problem with developmental pathways that's a little pressing. So they're always so supportive and helpful in all of those things. And so that's been great. Smaller agencies can't do that for people. And we definitely need that. And just with Medicaid, so many things changing. You hear about it all the time with just changes in the way they do CCBs and the new, or this recent, you know, all of a sudden everybody has to renew their Medicaid. That's our current problem, is that that's caused such a backlog with Medicaid. Just to have a larger agency watching my back, and, you know, someone I can contact just for advice and maybe a little bit of advocacy when they can has been really awesome, and I appreciate that. Another thing I've really found that Support Inc. has done for our family, and I've learned this after the fact. I didn't know, I should have, I knew this a little bit because our kids are high medical needs, and we've always needed an agency that has a really good medical team, but I wasn't super aware going into the DD waiver, but there's a fair amount of agencies that don't have a medical team. Maybe they have a contract nurse for a couple hours a week, you know, that helps them. But the DD waiver for any kids that have special needs, whether they have big medical needs or just those potential medical needs, the DD waiver just needs good nursing supervision and oversight. And I've appreciated that tremendously. Understanding from my previous casework experience, how important, you know, crossing T's and dotting I's are. That has been a really key thing for me, to have that experienced medical team right there that I can email them or contact them, and they stay on top of the paperwork that my kids need and monitor all their many specialist appointments and things like that. That's just been terrific. Again, helping, you know, with lost paperwork from the DP developmental pathways. It seems like that just happens over and over. I'm sure anyone that's been with CCBs for a long time can identify, and I have just so appreciated our residential team, my RPC and Danielle, for just facilitating so many contacts and helping with developmental pathways, even this morning, with making sure they're doing their job. So yeah, just reflecting on this last year, I feel like I feel far less stressed on a grand scale, because we're through everything. We're done with, you know, every application and transition. And now we have just plans in place that are so helpful, and I feel they're so solid, and we can continue with them. So now my daily stress is just the needs of my kids that I have to deal with every day. And that is so much more doable when everything else is being managed well. So I just really appreciate where we've come, and can now talk about that and share about that a year later.
Thank you so much for the feedback. I feel like that's very valuable insight. I also want to give a shout out to Danielle and Pauline. I feel like they've been instrumental in the supports that you've gotten the last year, the nurse team. I'm sure Lily has been in touch with you at some point too. So I just want to thank everybody that's helped your two kids. And we sincerely appreciate you joining us. It was really fun working together last year. So
yeah, well, thank you so much. You've been great, Kathy.
Does anybody have any questions for Cheryl while she's on here? Okay. I know you said you need to hop off around 11:40 or so, and I think you'd given me permission to share your email with anybody who has any further questions after this
definitely.
too. So
For sure. Yeah, thank you.
sounds good. Yeah, thank you. We'll go ahead and move on to our next expert. Let me see here. Jean Rice, you're up next, please.
Okay, thank you. I don't know about expert, you just become that, I think, the longer you do this. My daughter is 41, and we were in that hole on a wait list for 17 years. She only got off the wait list when my husband got sick with cancer, and we started with an agency. She was living in an apartment. But unfortunately, she was the victim of some exploitation and developed a pretty serious mental health issue. And then my husband passed away, and that created even more issues. I was not able to handle her grief and my own, so she went into a host home, but she did a lot of running away, eloping, just out of her head. You know, we had to get medication to help with all of the trauma she was diagnosed with bipolar at that point. She already has a cognitive disability plus autism. So it was a really, really difficult time. And I was finding that for her, families just weren't, that were taking her in as host home, weren't able to manage her struggles. And then the different agencies that we had for residential had a difficult time, not just thinking she might be better off going into a facility of some sort. I wasn't willing to do that to her. I felt it would damage her quality of life when she got herself in a position where she could manage. So I ended up being able to take her as a, well, I was a host home provider myself for a while, thinking I'd find a roommate. My husband and I both were thinking we'd find a roommate for my daughter because we knew she was capable of living on her own. That didn't end up happening just for various reasons, but mainly because my husband got ill. So when we went with the residential agency for who I had as a host home, they wanted to go ahead and move her to a facility after my husband passed away. And I just was not willing for that to happen. I was working in Longmont and heard about Support Inc. through my position in Longmont. And I didn't move my daughter up there. She stayed in Colorado Springs in a host home. But I ended up moving back to Colorado Springs. We went with a residential agency here that set me up as a family caregiver. So that was about 6 years ago. And I was able to work with a psychiatrist, and Alicia my daughter became very much more stable mentally, and enjoyed the day program she was in. And then, of course, as you all know, COVID hit, and she really took it was just very difficult. She lost a lot of cognitive ability. She had a lot of issues, and it felt like there was no support whatsoever from the residential agency we were with. So during COVID, I switched residential agencies who had a day program that did online and some things that really helped her and supported her. And I felt very good about it as far as the day program, but the residential just seemed to only care about the paperwork, and it was more paperwork and more paperwork and more paperwork. And I get that that's a need, and but it's not my first priority is the paperwork. My first priority was keeping my daughter stable. So yes, I mean, I'm not one to shove off paperwork, but it just felt like they were a business, and there was no compassion really for my daughter. So she struggled last year severely last summer with some PTSD from the exploitation she had had, and then just still grieving my husband's passing. So it was, the other agency was like, we can't help you. We don't know what to do. Kind of threw up their hands, and I was pretty, I needed help. So I reached out to several agencies. I reached out to our center board. At the time, we had a very, very great case worker. So through that process, I was able to interview agencies, and I had Kristen as the intake for Support Inc. And just so welcoming and understanding, not pushy, but just there to answer all the questions. And I just felt like I found an agency that actually took the care of my daughter first and foremost. So with that also, I Kristen came down to meet Alicia. At that point in time, I was thinking I wanted to put her in a host home just because I was struggling emotionally as her caregiver. But it was almost like a light bulb went on for Alicia that if she had somebody that was really caring about her, maybe she should kind of work with me to keep things going, and then have a caregiver, host home provider maybe later. And she ended up kind of righting herself, if you will, mentally, because we also reached out to the behavior specialist for Support Inc., which was a really great, ended up being phone call, but kind of Alicia there too, and realizing there were people that cared about her and wanted to help her. And so, and then she was able to meet Lauren, our person here in Colorado Springs, and just felt very comfortable that people were listening to her, which she did not have before. So we came on board with Support Inc. And I have been very, very, very pleased with all of the services, all of the help, mainly support ongoing, that if I need anything or I have a question, there's someone there to help right away. Alicia suffered from a stroke, is why she has a cognitive disability. She had that stroke from a reaction to penicillin when she was 15 months old. So her left side has gotten more and more compromised as she's gotten older. And that's another reason why I want to continue to be her family caregiver, because there's some small nuances that are really kind of playing havoc with her physical health as well. And I was having problems getting people to look for and help with physical therapy, because it's a neurological issue. It's hard for her to do physical therapy, but I had ended up having physical therapy myself and saw some other people with developmental disabilities. And so I contacted the nursing team, or my Lauren, and she contacted the nursing team, and they're looking at trying to help provide physical therapy for Alicia, which is just great, again, to have someone doing that help for me besides myself. And again, I love that it's individualized and the paperwork isn't overwhelming, because again, the last agency, it seemed like that's all I did all day long, was paperwork. And I do enjoy these webinars. I feel like I'm not alone. As some of you probably have already had to deal with, but I did not have to deal with, is I did not have to raise her by myself. And so I enjoy having some support in that regard. And then Alicia has this whole year just really gained. We got some things put in place for her, some other additional supports through the team, and she is just gaining ground and able to manage her mental health. And so and I've learned some strategies as well, and we've really been able to move forward in a really good spot. So she's enjoying her life, and now she's directing me that she thinks she doesn't need to travel with me all the time. She would like to find respite care, and she would like to interview those people. So we were setting that up currently, because she wants to have her own life from her mom, which I think is so healthy, and I'm so grateful. So and Support Inc. has been very accommodating in looking for and setting up meets for us with respite care. So because she worries that, I'm older, and at some point she might, I don't know that she'd ever be able to live on her own again, just for lots of reasons, but she's in a healthy place to know that she has support. And Lauren was absolutely wonderful in giving Alicia her phone number and telling her to call anytime she's worried about anything. And I know Alicia's taken her up on that a couple times. So that again has been very wonderful in Alicia's mental health and her physical health as well. So I appreciate you very much.
Thank you so much for sharing those details. It's really great to hear the feedback on the agency as a whole. On Lauren specifically as the residential program coordinator, I've heard great things about her as well. I feel like some of these details that we share on these presentations can be deeply personal. And so I just thank you so much for being willing to join us here today, to being open to sharing this information with us, and for joining us on the panel of experts. It is a big ask for us, and so we do greatly appreciate your feedback and everything that you've shared with us. Does anybody have any questions for Jean before we move on to our next expert? And I'm
Thank
sorry,
you.
since I'm sharing my screen, I can see there's stuff in the chat, but I can't read it right now. So just feel free to speak up if you have a question.
I can help you. There's no questions in the chat, but I would just echo what you said, Kathy. Thanks so much, Jean and Cheryl, for sharing your stories. It's really just cool to hear the highs, the lows, just how we could be there to support you. But yeah, it's really appreciated, just you guys sharing your story and your journey. I think it's empowering and important to hear.
Sorry.
I'll go ahead and move on. Here is Pat Tracy up next, one of our host home provider extraordinaires up in Fort Collins.
Hello, everybody. I would first like to say that family caregivers are superheroes. The things that they do and the things that they make happen for their people are amazing. I have 2 clients that came from family caregivers. Their mothers were getting a little bit old to be able to take care of them and keep up with them. And the mothers, the families in my case, were very helpful and very informative. And all the communication was going through Support Inc. And it couldn't have been better in my book. And I continue to strive every day to make the relationship with their mothers stronger, different, more friendly instead of service oriented. And we are having some success and making progress. I really don't know how to follow up the family caregivers. They both seem to be very amazing people. I have been with Support Inc. Since 2019. I did start in the day program. I was brought on board by the company nurse. She actually, picked me out. I live in her neighborhood, and I'm very thankful that I was given the opportunity, and she believed in me. Then when I came on board, I had an RCP that made it fun, made it interesting, made it challenging, and made it easy all at the same time. There was so much to learn and so much to do, classes to take, but it was all made easy by Support Inc. It was all laid out in the processes that made it simpler to go through. The person-centered thing, I still think we haven't gone far enough. I think that we do a lot of things that are person-centered, but there's a lot of regulations and things that are, in my opinion, don't seem to be right for the person. This is not coming from Support Inc. This is coming from the state mandates and rules and regulations and red tape. And Support Inc. always helps you navigate and get through that and make sure that you're not, breaking laws or in any way jeopardizing the safety of the client. So that really, really, really helps with my peace of mind and being able to sleep at night. The boys that I have, I've just recently had my first experience with Down syndrome, and I feel so blessed. I've learned so much. The world that they live in is amazing. And when we open up more doors and they get to experience things for the first time, it's better than going to church. It's so fulfilling and so heartwarming. And my Down syndrome boy has started hugging. We get lots of hugs now. I don't know how I can call this a job. I wake up happy every day. I go to bed tired every day, and I look forward to the next day. A big part of that is support, knowing that I don't have to worry about a lot of the things that my RCP is going to make sure to help me stay on top of things and make sure that I don't forget things. But once you get into a routine, being a host home provider is the best job in the world. You cannot find a better job than what I currently have. You got time off when they're with their day programs, which I'm pretty fortunate with. We are out in the community every day, and yeah, we get some people that don't appreciate us, but 99% of the people are thankful and smiling and happy to see us. And it, again, it's fun, it's exciting, it's interesting, it's challenging. I don't know, I've had many careers before this. I've traveled the whole country and I've never had this much fun. So if there's anything, if there's even a family caregiver that knows people that they think could do this, it takes a special person. You have to be service to others. You cannot be service to yourself doing this. It doesn't work. So if you know people that are out there that you think and that you've seen around your child or your clients, welcome them, get them aboard, tell them how great it is and the freedoms and the support that you do get. You won't be sorry. They will thank you later, and you will be glad to have another friend that you can do things with. I haven't really been able to attend a lot of the functions that are down in Denver and in the South. But we are going to try to, I guess, get some stuff going up here, and I'd be glad to help with that up in Fort Collins. And just to expand the fun that we're having, because every day is an adventure and every day is fun. So I don't know what else I should address on my PowerPoint, but I love what I do. Support Inc. is a huge part of that.
Thank you so much. I feel like everything you just summed up was perfect. I know 2 weeks ago when we had caught up over Zoom for our planning meeting, there was 2 things you had said that stood out to me. So one was from a host home provider's perspective, sometimes it can take a while to find a match because you want to make sure it's a good fit on your end as the provider and a good fit for the family as well and for the person receiving services. So sometimes it can take a while, but then once the match is secured, you hit the ground running. And so I thought that was excellent feedback for anybody that's considering becoming a provider for us in the future. And then the other thing you said that really stood out to me is that you like to take the pressure off the family so mom can be mom. And that's definitely a quality that we look for in our host home providers, is someone that's willing to dive in, willing to take that risk, willing to take that chance on the person that's moving in with them. And ultimately, the goal is that the person in services continues to grow as an individual with whatever residential goals they may have. And ultimately, for the parents to feel reassured that their loved one is receiving good care in that provider's home. So we just want to thank you so much for being willing to talk with us on here today and to be willing to join this meeting. We've always been singing you, Pat, just praises from the get-go. So we really do appreciate you being a provider for us and everything you've done to help the people that we serve. So,
well,
you.
I can only be as good as you help me be.
Thank you so much. Did anybody have any questions for Pat before we move on to Jake next? Okay, and then we can also open it up to questions and comments at the end as well. So, all right, Brian, do you have Jake on the phone with you?
I do. Jake is on the line. So I actually had the pleasure of working with Jake when I was in operations. I think his story is super inspirational. He's an awesome individual. Started out in a host home in our services and then quickly moved to his own apartment, which he currently lives in Loveland. So with that, I will turn it over to you, Jake.
And I also have my own car. It took a long time to get past you. Bye. I don't know, it just took a lot of hard work on a lot of people helping me from support.
Very true. Can you guys hear him okay?
And so the whole thing was a long process going from post home to my own apartment and using my car and everything.
Yeah, no, well said. Kathy, can you hear Jake okay?
Yes, it sounds
Yeah.
like Jake was talking about the car that he saved up for a little while. And so now you're able to drive too, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And supporting helps with the car. It's like with like the payments and everything.
Yes, which is really cool how we kind of structure budgets. Yeah, like you were saying, you really worked really hard to get your license, got your car. And yeah, I think it's cool. I was a part of that, just to kind of structure your personalized budget. The way you use your funding to be able to kind of help you get a car, other things like that. Living on your own. But yeah, I think it's well said. We really appreciate working with you. Like I said, I think you're an inspirational story. Anything else you'd like to touch on? Kind of support from host home to apartment? Anything you get now? I know it's kind of tough. You're at the zoo, which I don't blame you. Anything else you kind of like to touch on? Your interests, your hobbies?
I have my hobby kind of right now to running a YouTube channel.
That is true.
I kind of look for places and I use my car to get over there or my bike.
I always appreciate seeing your YouTube videos. They're pretty awesome.
What are those about?
Oh, Jake.
Like cemeteries, abandoned buildings, abandoned houses. Sometimes it's like screen related stuff too.
Did you go to the Stanley Hotel or that one you want to do?
I want you and just so expensive.
It's true. That's a pretty famous one.
The room I want was where Stephen King stayed at. Now it's like $650 a night.
Well, I think we'll have to talk with Vince and work that into your budget.
I know what you're talking about. Even if you don't stay the night at the Stanley Hotel, did you know that there's a ghost tour you can take there as well?
I can't hear what they're saying.
Yeah, Kathy was saying that there's a ghost tour as well that you could potentially take.
Right.
But yeah, super cool, Jake. Like I said, I think your story is really inspirational, really awesome. A cool way how the DD waiver funding can be used to support individuals in their own apartments. I really appreciate you hopping on, even though you had this trip to the zoo. So can't thank you enough for jumping on. It's been a pleasure working with you. Seems like you've enjoyed your time working with us, so looking forward to more to come.
And you don't know what to expect from life. Like, you never know what's going to happen.
That is true. Jake just said you never really know what to expect from life. Yeah, very true, but we're happy to be working with you. I'll let you enjoy the zoo. Again, thanks for just hopping on. And hopefully we'll start sharing your YouTube videos. Continue to send them our way.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, thanks, Jake.
Thanks. Take care.
Yeah.
Bye. Awesome. Well, did the best we could. But yeah, Jake's an awesome individual. Lives and loved on his own. Really cool story. Starting out in a host home, his goal was to always live on his own. Being supported by his residential team and his host home provider to kind of meet those goals, and moved into his own apartment in January. And also got his license, got a car. He's just been doing awesome. He works, he's had the same job for a while, making pottery, which is really cool. So yeah, I'm happy we got to hear from him.
Living his best life in the community. And let's face it, I think we all wish we were at the zoo right now. All right, so it looks like that concludes the presentation. Just wanted to thank you guys again for joining us today. We'd like to open it up for any questions, concerns, any sort of feedback anybody has. We're certainly welcome to hear it if anybody has anything to share. I'm just now seeing all the comments, and I also appreciate everybody that was willing to join us today. Cheryl, Jean, Pat, and Jake, I feel like you guys are all so well spoken, and we greatly appreciated having you guys on here today. Just excellent caregivers of all kinds.
Yeah, agreed. Thank you all. Super inspirational to hear all the stories, all well spoken, amazing at what you do. So can't thank you guys enough.
A reminder of why we do what we do. So do appreciate working with you guys so much. No feedback? Does anybody have a good joke? Anything? Nothing? All right. Well, if there's nothing else to add, I'll just go ahead and start recording here in a moment. I feel like this is one of our shorter webinars, so that's nice. I love what Brian said earlier. I do think a backpack webinar, not to put you on the spot, Rich, but I do think that would be an excellent topic for next time. So just wanted to throw that out there.
more than willing to help, and
Yeah.
I'll wrangle Mark into helping with me with it too.
Yeah. That sounds good.
I'll do my best. I'll do my best.